The stars had never looked so bright. Park Soo stood at the observation window of the diplomatic ship Horizon and watched the massive space station grow larger. Nexus Prime, the heart of galactic civilization. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a little girl in Busan, looking up at the night sky and wondering if anyone was looking back. Now she knew. Someone was looking back. Many someones. 142 species, to be exact. And today, humanity would meet them all. "Ambassador, we dock in 20 minutes, said a voice behind her. She turned to see Admiral Kim Tae standing at attention. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. He did not trust aliens. He had told her this many times. But he was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. "Thank you, Admiral," Park Soo said. "Is Dr. Lee ready?" "She has not slept in 3 days. She says she is still memorizing greeting phrases in 17 languages. Park Soo smiled. Lee Hannah was the best xenolinguist on Earth. She spoke 47 human languages and had learned 12 alien ones from intercepted transmissions. The woman was brilliant, but she worried too much. Tell her to rest. We will need her sharp mind today." The Admiral nodded and left. Park Soo turned back to the window. 200 years. That was how long humanity had been traveling among the stars. 200 years since the first faster-than-light engine carried humans beyond their solar system. In that time, they had built colonies on 30 worlds. They had met alien traders and explorers. They had heard whispers of the Galactic Assembly, the great council that ruled this part of the galaxy, and now, finally, they had been invited. Park Soo should have felt proud. She should have felt excited. Instead, she felt a small knot of worry in her stomach. The invitation had come suddenly, after centuries of silence. Why now? What did the assembly want? She pushed the worry aside. Today was a day for hope, not fear. The Horizon docked smoothly. Park Soo gathered her delegation. There were 50 humans in total. Diplomats, scientists, translators, and security officers. They wore their best uniforms. They carried gifts from Earth, wine from France, silk from Korea, music recordings from every nation. They wanted to show the galaxy that humanity came in peace. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto Nexus Prime. Park Soo had seen pictures, but pictures did not prepare her for the reality. The station was enormous. The main hall stretched 4 kilometers, filled with beings of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Some floated in the air. Some slithered along the floor. Some were made of light. Some were made of stone. The noise was incredible. Thousands of voices speaking thousands of languages, mixed with music and machinery and sounds that human ears could not identify. Lieutenant Yunho, the head of security, moved closer to the ambassador. His hand rested near his weapon. "Easy," Park Soo whispered. "We are guests here. Guests who are surrounded by aliens we know nothing about," Yunho replied. But he moved his hand away from his weapon. A path opened in the crowd. A creature approached them. It was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and golden. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through leaves. "Welcome, humans. I am Counselor Eth. I will guide you to the assembly hall. The Elder awaits." Park Soo bowed. "Thank you, Counselor. We are honored to be here." They followed Eth through the crowded station. Aliens stopped to stare at them. Some pointed. Some whispered. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Park Soo kept her head high and her expression calm. The assembly hall was even more impressive than the main corridor. It was a vast circular room with thousands of seats arranged in rising tiers. Each seat held a representative from a different species. At the center of the room was a raised platform, and on that platform sat a single figure, Eldervorn of the Keth Dominion. Park Soo had studied images of the Keth. They were ancient beings. One of the first species to achieve space travel. They had ruled their corner of the galaxy for over 1,000,000 years. Eldervorn himself was said to be 10,000 years old. He looked it. His body was massive and covered in thick gray scales. His face was flat, with small eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the hall. Humans, you stand before the Galactic Assembly. For 200 years we have watched you spread across the stars. We have debated your nature. Some said you were too violent to join us. Some said you were too primitive. Some said you were too dangerous. He paused. The hall was silent. But we have decided to give you a chance. We invite you to join the Assembly, to become part of our great civilization, to share in our knowledge and our protection. Park Sue felt her heart lift. This was what they had hoped for. Membership in the Assembly would give humanity access to technologies beyond imagination. Medicine that could cure any disease. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days. Knowledge gathered over millions of years. However, Elder Vorn continued, you must understand your place. The warmth in Park Sue's chest began to cool. Humanity's young. You have much to learn. Therefore, you will not have voting rights in the Assembly for 500 years. You will accept advisors from senior species who will guide your development. And you will surrender your military vessels to the Assembly fleet. This is for your own protection, of course. Young species often make mistakes. We will ensure you do not. Park Sue stared at the elder. She could feel Admiral Kim tensing beside her. She could hear the soft gasp from Dr. Lee. They were not being offered membership. They were being offered a cage. We are grateful for this generous offer, Park Sue said carefully. We ask for time to consider it. Elder Vorn's small eyes narrowed. You have 1 day. Park Sue bowed again. Her face showed nothing. But inside, her mind was racing. Something was wrong here. The offer was too one-sided. The conditions were too harsh. Why would the Assembly want humanity's ships? Why would they want to control humanity's development? She did not know yet, but she intended to find out. The delegation was led to their quarters. The rooms were comfortable, but plain. Park Sue noticed that there were no windows. No way to see what was happening outside. She gathered her team in her room and activated the security field that would block any listening devices. What do you think? She asked. Admiral Kim spoke first. It is a trap. They want our fleet. Once we give it up, we will be helpless. Dr. Lee shook her head. But why? What do we have that they want? Perhaps it is not what we have, Lieutenant Yoon said quietly. Perhaps it is what we might become. Park Sue looked at him. Explain. Humans spread fast. We adapt. We grow. In 200 years, we went from 1 planet to 30 colonies. In another 200 years, we might have 100. In 1,000 years, he shrugged. Perhaps they are afraid of what we will be in 1,000 years. Park Sue nodded slowly. It made sense. The old species had been static for millennia. Humanity was young and hungry and growing. Maybe that scared them. But fear was not a good foundation for a relationship. We need more information, she said. Lieutenant, can your team access their communications? Yoon-ho smiled. We can try. Park Sue looked at the bare walls of her room. Somewhere out there in that massive station filled with ancient and powerful beings, the truth was waiting. She just had to find it. Lieutenant Yoon-ho had not slept in 30 hours. His eyes burned. His fingers ached from typing. But he could not stop. Not now. Not when he had found what he was looking for. The alien communication systems were old. Very old. The Keth had built them thousands of years ago, and they had not been updated since. Why would they be? The Keth were the masters of the galaxy. No one would dare spy on them. No one except humans. Yoon-ho had spent his career breaking codes. Human codes, at first. Then, when humanity reached the stars, alien codes. He was the best at what he did. And what he did was listen to conversations that were meant to be private. The transmission he had intercepted was private indeed. He read it again. Then he read it a third time. His hands began to shake. Ambassador, he said into his communicator, you need to see this now. Park Sue arrived 5 minutes later. Admiral Kim and Dr. Lee were with her. They crowded into Yoon-ho's small room, and he showed them the screen. The message was between Elder Vorn and 3 other leaders. High Lord Massa of the Malvari, the voice of the Dessa Collective, and the Shining One, ruler of the Bright Ones, together. These 4 controlled half the galaxy, and they had made a deal. Once the humans surrendered their fleet, Elder Vorn had written, "We will divide their colonies among us. The Malvari will take the outer settlements. The Dessa will take the agricultural worlds. The Bright Ones will take the mining colonies. The Keth will take Earth itself." "They are lying to us," High Lord Massa had replied. "Good. Humans breed too fast. They spread too quickly. In a few centuries, they might challenge our power. Better to control them now, while they are still weak." "Agreed," the Shining One had written. "We will tell them it is for their protection. Humans are emotional creatures. They will believe us. And if they do not believe us," the voice of Dessa had asked. "Then we will take what we want by force," Elder Vorn had answered. "Their ships are primitive. They cannot stand against us. Either way, humanity will kneel." The room was silent. Dr. Lee was crying. Tears ran down her face, but she made no sound. She had spent her life learning alien languages, dreaming of friendship between species. That dream was dying in front of her eyes. Admiral Kim's face was red with fury. His hands were clenched into fists. "I knew it," he growled. "I told you not to trust them." Park Sue said nothing. She stared at the screen. Her face was completely calm, but her eyes were hard as stone. "Can this transmission be faked?" she asked finally. Yoon Ho shook his head. "No, I have verified it 7 times. It is real. It uses Elder Vorn's personal encryption key. There is no doubt." "Then we have a choice," Park Sue said quietly. "We can agree to their terms and hope they change their minds. We can fight them and lose, or ... or what?" Admiral Kim demanded. Park Sue looked at him. A small smile crossed her face. It was not a happy smile. "Or we can leave, and let them see what happens when humans walk away." The Admiral frowned. "That is not much of a revenge." "No," Park Sue agreed. "It is not. But revenge is not what I want, Admiral. I want something better. I want them to understand that they made a mistake. I want them to regret what they did. And I want them to come to us someday and ask for our help." "Why would they ever do that?" Park Sue's smile grew. "Because humans have been helping aliens for 200 years. We share our medicine. We share our science. We trade fairly. We report pirates and criminals. We mediate disputes. We have done all of this freely, asking nothing in return. The galaxy has grown used to human kindness." She looked at the screen again. "Let them see what the galaxy looks like without it." The assembly reconvened the next morning. Elder Vorn sat on his throne, surrounded by his allies. The hall was packed. Every species in the galaxy had come to watch humanity accept its place. Park Sue walked to the central podium. She looked small, standing there, surrounded by thousands of alien eyes. But her voice was strong and clear. "Honored members of the Galactic Assembly," she said, "before I give humanity's answer, I have something to share with you." She pressed a button on her datapad. The intercepted transmission appeared on every screen in the hall. Elder Vorn's words echoed through the chamber. The plans for division. The talk of conquest. The contempt for humanity. Chaos erupted. Aliens were shouting. Some were screaming. The neutral species were furious. They had not known about the conspiracy. They had believed the assembly was fair and just. Elder Vorn rose from his throne. "This is a lie," he roared. "Human trickery." "It is your encryption key," Park Sue replied calmly. "Your words. Your allies." "There is no trick here, Elder. Only truth." The hall fell into angry silence. Park Sue looked around at the thousands of faces watching her. Some were hostile. Some were afraid. Some were curious. She took a deep breath. "We came here in good faith," she said. "We brought gifts. We brought hope. We brought the dream of friendship between our species and yours." She paused. You offered us chains. Her voice grew harder. You planned to steal our worlds, to enslave our people, to take everything we have built and divide it among yourselves. You called us emotional. You called us primitive. You said we would kneel. She straightened her shoulders. We will not kneel. A murmur ran through the hall. Humanity declines your offer of membership, Park Sue said. We withdraw from these negotiations. We will return to our own space. We will build our own future. We will not beg for your friendship or your protection. She looked directly at Elder Vorn. You had a chance to make allies of us. You chose to make enemies. That is your mistake, Elder, not ours. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her delegation followed. Admiral Kim walked with his head high. Dr. Lee had stopped crying. Her face was now calm and cold. Lieutenant Yoon had his hand on his weapon, but no one tried to stop them. At the door, Park Sue paused. She looked back at the hall one last time. One day, she said, you will need us. You will call for our help, and we will remember this moment. Then she walked out, and the doors closed behind her. The horizon left Nexus Prime within hours. As the station grew smaller in the view screen, Admiral Kim came to stand beside Park Sue. What happens now? He asked. Now we go home, she said. We build our fleet. We strengthen our colonies. We wait. Wait for what? Park Sue watched the stars stream past the window, them to realize what they have lost. The Admiral shook his head. They have a million-year civilization. They have technology we cannot imagine. What could they possibly need from us? Park Sue smiled. This time it was a real smile. Admiral, do you know why humans have been so successful among the stars? It is not our ships. It is not our weapons. It is not our technology. Then what is it? It is that we help others without asking for anything in return. We trade fairly. We keep our promises. We solve problems. We make friends. She looked at him. The galaxy is full of old powerful species who do nothing but compete with each other. They have forgotten how to cooperate. They have forgotten how to trust. Humans reminded them. Humans showed them another way. Her smile faded. Oh, we will stop. And they will remember too late why they needed us. The horizon jumped into hyperspace. Behind it, the Galactic Assembly was falling into chaos. The conspiracy had been exposed. Trust between species was shattered. Arguments were turning into threats, and humanity was gone. They would not come back for a very long time. At first, the galaxy laughed. Humans had walked out of the assembly. So what? They were a young species, barely out of their cradle world. They had no rare resources. They had no advanced technology. They had nothing the elder races could not get elsewhere. Elder Vorn dismissed the incident with a wave of his massive hand. Let them sulk, he told his advisors. They will come crawling back within a year. Humans are weak. They need us. The other conspirators agreed. The Molvari returned to their laboratories. The Dessa returned to their farms. The Bright Ones returned to their counting houses. The humans would learn their lesson soon enough. 6 months passed. The first sign of trouble came from the trade routes near human space. A Rilvan merchant ship disappeared. Then another. Then 5 more. Pirates, the Rilvans said. But no one knew which pirates or where they hid. In the old days, humans would have reported them. Human ships were everywhere, exploring, trading, watching. Humans loved to explore. They were curious about everything. When they saw pirates, they told someone. When they heard rumors, they passed them along. It was just what humans did. Now the human ships were gone. They had retreated to their own space and stayed there. The watching eyes had closed. Trade insurance rates doubled, then tripled. Merchants began avoiding the sectors near human territory. It was too dangerous. 8 months passed. A plague struck the Molvari homeworld. It was a respiratory disease, spreading fast and killing slowly. The Molvari doctors worked desperately, but they could not find a cure. In the old days, they would have asked the humans for help. Human doctors were famous throughout the galaxy. Human immune systems were strange and wonderful things, capable of fighting off diseases that killed other species in days. Humans had helped cure dozens of alien plagues. They did it for free. They said it was interesting. High Lord Massa swallowed his pride and sent a message to Earth. He did not apologize for the conspiracy. He simply requested medical assistance, as if nothing had happened. The reply came from Ambassador Cho Mina, Park Su's successor. It was polite and short. Humanity thanks the Mulveri for their interest. Unfortunately, we are focusing on internal development at this time. We wish you well in resolving your health crisis. That was all. No anger. No demands. Just a polite refusal. High Lord Massa sent another message. He offered payment. He offered trade goods. He offered technology. The reply was identical. We wish you well. The plague killed 3 million Mulveri before it burned itself out. 1 year passed. The Dessa Collective faced a different problem. Their food synthesis machines were failing. The technology was old, borrowed from a species that had died out long ago. The Dessa had never understood how it worked. They had simply used it in the old days. They would have asked a human for help. Human scientists loved puzzles. They would take apart any machine, study it, improve it, and give it back with a smile. They did not care about payment. They said learning was its own reward. The voice of Dessa sent a formal request to Earth. They asked for technical assistance. They even included an apology for the conspiracy, though it was carefully worded to avoid admitting guilt. Ambassador. Cho Mina's reply was the same as before. We wish you well. Dessa began to starve. 18 months passed. The Bright Ones discovered that their economy was collapsing. Their entire civilization was built on trade. They bought and sold everything, from raw materials to finished goods to information itself. They were the richest species in the galaxy, but their wealth depended on a mineral called terranium. It was used in faster-than-light engines. Without it, ships could not travel between stars. The Bright Ones had always bought terranium from human traders, who sold it cheaply because they had plenty. Now the humans were not selling. The Shining One sent message after message to Earth. He offered vast sums of money. He offered political favors. He offered to support humanity's membership in the Assembly. We wish you well. The price of terranium rose 100 times. Then 1,000 times. The Bright Ones' trading empire began to crumble. 2 years passed. The Keth Dominion faced rebellion. Elder Vorn had ruled for 10,000 years. He had kept peace through careful diplomacy. It's playing different species against each other, making deals, solving problems. He was very good at it. But in the old days, he had human help. Human diplomats were natural peacemakers. They listened to everyone. They understood different points of view. They found solutions that made all sides happy. They did this for free because humans hated seeing people fight. Now the humans were gone. Old disputes that had been settled years ago came back to life. Species that had been at peace began fighting again. The Keth could not stop them all. 3 sectors declared independence. Then 5. Then 9 Elder Vorn's advisors begged him to ask the humans for help. He refused. He was too proud. We do not need them, he growled. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000,000 years. We will rule it for 1,000,000 more. But his voice did not sound as certain as it used to. 3 years passed. Ambassador. Albina had received over 1,000 requests for aid. Medical help. Technical help. Diplomatic help. Trade agreements. Cultural exchanges. Some were polite. Some were demanding. Some were desperate. She answered them all the same way. Humanity thanks you for your interest. Unfortunately, we are focusing on internal development at this time. We wish you well. Her staff asked her if she ever felt bad about refusing. So many species were suffering. So many problems could be solved with just a little human help. Cho Mina looked out the window of her office in Seoul. The city was beautiful in the spring. Cherry blossoms covered the trees. Children played in the parks. Life on Earth had never been better. We offered them friendship, she said quietly. We offered them partnership. We offered them everything we had. and they plan to enslave us." She turned back to her desk. "Now they can solve their own problems. When they are ready to treat us as equals, we will talk. Until then, ... She smiled sadly. "We wish them well." For years past, the galaxy was falling apart. Trade routes were dangerous. Diseases were spreading. Economies were failing. Wars were starting. The Galactic Assembly still met, but its sessions were filled with shouting and accusations. No one trusted anyone. Neutral species began to understand what had happened. Humans had been the glue holding everything together, not through power or threats, but through kindness. Through help freely given, through friendship offered without conditions. Now the glue was gone. Everything was coming unstuck. Some of the neutral species began reaching out to humanity in secret. The Rilvan traders sent a private message. The stone singers of Keleth sent a delegation. They came not as masters, but as equals. They came not demanding help, but offering friendship. Ambassador Cho-Mina welcomed them warmly. "We have not forgotten how to be friends," she told them. "We have only learned to choose our friends more carefully." The Rilvans and the Stone Singers signed trade agreements with Earth, fair agreements between equals. Word spread quietly through the galaxy. If you wanted human help, you had to earn it. You had to treat humans like people, not like servants. 5 years passed since the walkout. The galaxy looked at humanity with new eyes. The young species that had been dismissed as primitive and emotional had become something else, something stronger, something that could not be bullied or tricked or controlled. And somewhere on Earth, in a quiet apartment in Busan, retired Ambassador Park Sue watched the news from the stars and smiled. "They are learning," she said to herself. "Slowly, but they are learning." She looked at the photograph on her desk. It showed her team from the horizon. Admiral Kim, Dr. Lee, Lieutenant Yoon. All of them had done their part. Now, it was time for the galaxy to do its part. It was time for them to understand what they had lost, and perhaps, it someday, earn it back. Admiral Beak-Woo stood on the bridge of the battleship Dawn of Terra and watched the stars. 5 years ago, humanity had run from Nexus Prime with their tails between their legs. At least that was how the galaxy had seen it. They were not running now. The human fleet had tripled in size. New shipyards orbited every colony world. New weapons had been designed, built, and tested. New defensive systems protected human space. While the galaxy fell apart, humanity had been preparing. Preparing for what exactly? Beak-Woo was not sure. Ambassador Cho-Mina said they were preparing for peace. Admiral Beak believed in preparing for war. Either way, humanity was ready. A communication officer approached him. "Admiral, we have received a message from the Keth Dominion. Priority 1. Beak-Woo raised an eyebrow. The Keth had not spoken to humanity in 5 years. "Put it on screen." The face that appeared was not Eldervorn. It was a younger Keth, with smoother scales and brighter eyes. His name was Lord Torn, and he was Eldervorn's chief advisor. "Admiral Beak," Lord Torn said, "I bring a message from the Galactic Assembly, the assembly that tried to enslave us." Beak-Woo asked calmly. Lord Torn's face tightened. "That was a misunderstanding. The message you intercepted was taken out of context. Of course it was." "Regardless," Lord Torn continued, "the Assembly has voted to impose sanctions on human space. You will cease all trade with neutral species. You will surrender your new warships. You will accept Assembly inspectors on all your worlds." Beak-Woo stared at him for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was not a nice laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had heard the funniest joke in the galaxy. "Lord Torn," he said, when he could speak again, "sanctions require enforcement. Do you have ships to spare? Last I heard, the Dominion was fighting rebels in 9 sectors. Now Lord Torn's face darkened. "The Dominion has more than enough power to deal with humanity. Is that so?" Beak-Woo leaned forward. "Then send your fleet." "We will be waiting." He cut the transmission. The communication officer looked nervous. "Admiral, was that wise? The Keth are still the most powerful species in the galaxy." "They were the most powerful species," Beak-Woo corrected. "Now they are fighting their own people." Their allies are starving and sick and poor. Their trade routes are unsafe. Their economy is failing, he smiled. And we have been building ships for 5 years. The Keth did not send their fleet. They could not. The rebellions had grown too large. The Dominion was fighting for survival, and it was losing. Elder Vorn died 6 months later. Some said it was old age. Some said it was shame. Some said his own advisors killed him. Whatever the truth, the ancient ruler who had tried to enslave humanity was gone. His death did not save the Dominion. The Malvar were in chaos. The plague had killed millions, and the survivors blamed their leaders for failing to get human help. Riots broke out on a dozen worlds. High Lord Massa fled into exile. No one knew where he went. The Dessa Collective had fragmented. Without food, their unity had shattered. Different factions fought over what little remained. The voice of Dessa was silent. Some said it had been destroyed in the fighting. The Bright Ones had lost everything. Their trading empire had collapsed. Their wealth had evaporated. The Shining One had been overthrown by his own people, who blamed him for provoking the humans. The new rulers were desperate and afraid. The 4 great powers who had conspired against humanity were broken, and throughout the galaxy, species began to understand the truth. They began to talk about it in whispers at first, then in normal voices, then in shouts. The humans had not needed to fire a single shot. They had simply walked away, and the galaxy destroyed itself. Ambassador Chomina received a visitor from the Rilvan traders. His name was Captain Ven, and he had been trading with humans for 20 years. He was old for a Rilvan, with silver fur and tired eyes. "Ambassador," he said, "I must be honest with you. When the humans left Nexus Prime, I thought you were fools. I thought you would regret your pride. I thought you would come crawling back." Chomina smiled politely. "And now I understand." Captain Ven shook his head slowly. "We all understood eventually. Humans were not weak because you helped others. You were strong because you helped others. You built trust. You've built friendships. You built a network of species who liked you and wanted you to succeed." He sighed. The Keth and their allies thought that was foolishness. They thought power came from control, from domination, from fear. And what do you think now? Captain Ven looked at her with something like wonder. "I think humans understood something the rest of us forgot. Power comes from being needed, from being trusted, from being the one that everyone turns to when they need help." He spread his hands. The Keth controlled the galaxy through threats and manipulation. Humans held it together through kindness. When the threats failed, the galaxy turned on the Keth. When the kindness stopped, the galaxy fell apart. Chomina finished, as Captain Ven bowed his head. "We were fools. All of us. We did not see what we had until it was gone." Chomina was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "We have not forgotten how to help, Captain. We have not forgotten how to be kind. We simply learned to be more careful about who receives our kindness." She stood and walked to the window. "The Rilvans were always fair to us. The Stone Singers were always honest. There are many species who never joined the conspiracy, who welcomed humans as friends and equals." She turned back to Captain Ven. "Those species will find that humanity remembers its friends. We are building something new, Captain. A network of trade and cooperation and mutual help. Not like the old assembly, where the powerful ruled the weak. Something better." Captain Ven's eyes widened. "You are building a new alliance." "We are building friendships," Chomina corrected. "Alliances can be broken. Friendships are harder to destroy." She smiled. "Would the Rilvans like to be our friends?" Captain Ven did not hesitate. Yes, we would." Word spread quickly. Humanity was making deals. Humanity was accepting allies. Humanity was building something new. Species that had been neutral during the walkout rushed to join. The Stone Singers. The Crystal Mines of Veloth. The Deep Swimmers of Oceanus. The Tree People of the Green Worlds. Dozens of species, large and small, sent delegations to Earth. They came not as masters seeking servants. They came as equals seeking partnership. Ambassador Chomina welcomed them all. She asked for nothing except fairness. No species would be controlled by another. No world would be claimed without consent. No one would be enslaved or cheated or betrayed. These are simple rules, she told the gathering delegations. Treat others as you want to be treated. Help when you can. Keep your promises. Be honest. These are human rules, a crystal mind observed. Chomina shook her head. These are the rules of friendship. Humans did not invent them. We simply remembered them when others forgot. The fallen powers watched from the ruins of their empires. The Keth Dominion was split into a dozen warring states. The Molvari were rebuilding under new leaders. The Dessa were scattered and lost. The Bright Ones were poor and humble. Some of them were angry. They blamed the humans for their fall. They said humans had tricked them, had sabotaged them, had somehow caused their disasters. But most of them understood the truth. Humans had done nothing to them. Humans had simply stopped helping them, and that had been enough. In a small house on a world that had once been part of the Keth Dominion, a young Keth named Scholar Veth listened to the news from Earth. He had been a student of Eldervorn, trained to believe that humans were primitive and dangerous. Now he watched humans building a new civilization. A civilization based on trust instead of fear, on cooperation instead of control, on kindness instead of cruelty. He thought about his own people, about their long history of domination, about the million years of rule that had ended in shame and ruin. And he wondered if, maybe, the humans had been right all along. Maybe strength was not about controlling others. Maybe it was about helping them. Maybe the Keth had been the primitive ones. Scholar Veth looked at the screen showing humans and aliens working together, laughing together, building together, and for the first time in his life, he wanted to be part of something like that. He began to write a letter to Earth. It was a small step, but all journeys begin with small steps. 10 years had passed since the day Park Su walked out of the Galactic Assembly. The assembly no longer existed. Its great hall on Nexus Prime stood empty. Dust covered the seats where thousands of alien delegates had once argued and debated. The screens that had shown Eldervorn's conspiracy were dark. The throne where he had sat, so certain of his power, was cracked and forgotten. The old order was dead. Something new had taken its place. They called it the Open Compact. It was not an empire. It was not a confederation. It was something that had never existed before in the galaxy. A gathering of species who had chosen to work together, who had chosen to trust each other, who had chosen to be friends. The founding ceremony was held on Earth. In a great park in Seoul where cherry blossoms fell like pink snow, representatives from 63 species stood together under the spring sky. More would join later. Many more. Ambassador Shingisu stood at the podium. She was young, barely 30 years old. Park Su had chosen her personally as a successor. She had Park Su's calm eyes and steady voice, but there was something warmer in her face. Something that spoke of hope instead of caution. We gather today not as masters and servants, she said, but as equals. Not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners. Not as strangers, but as friends. She looked out at the gathered delegates. Rilvans with their silver fur, stone singers with their bodies of living crystal, crystal minds floating in their containment fields, tree people swaying gently in the breeze, and dozens of others, species that had never worked together before, standing side by side. The old ways have failed, Shingisu continued. The galaxy tried domination. It tried control. It tried to rule through fear and force, and it collapsed. Billions suffered. Civilizations fell. Trust was shattered. She paused. We will try something different. It was written on paper in the old human style. The Charter of the Open Compact. This charter is simple. Every species has one vote. Every world is sovereign. Every being is free. We help each other because we choose to, not because we are forced. We trade fairly. We share knowledge. We keep our promises. She smiled. These are not complicated ideas. A child could understand them. But the galaxy forgot them for millions of years. It took a small young species to remember. A murmur of agreement ran through the crowd. Humanity does not claim to be better than anyone else, Shin Jisoo said. We are not wiser. We are not more advanced. We are simply stubborn. We refuse to accept that cruelty was the natural order. We refuse to believe that power required domination. We refuse to kneel. Her voice grew stronger. When the galaxy tried to force us to our knees, we did something unexpected. We walked away. We showed the galaxy that we did not need them. She lowered her voice. But here's the secret, the truth we always knew. We wanted to need them. We wanted to be part of something greater. We wanted friends and partners and allies. We wanted to explore the stars together, to learn together, to grow together. She looked at the sky, at the ships from a dozen worlds crossing overhead. Now, finally, we can. The ceremony ended with signing. Each species pressed their mark onto the charter. Some used hands. Some used tentacles. Some used fields of energy. Some used thoughts alone. It did not matter how they signed. What mattered was that they chose to sign. When it was done, Ambassador Shin Gisu stepped away from the podium. She walked through the crowd, shaking hands and touching appendages and exchanging greetings in a dozen languages. She found Dr. Lee Hanna sitting on a bench under a cherry tree. The old woman was crying, but she was smiling too. Dr. Lee Shin Gisu said gently, "Are you all right?" Lee Hanna wiped her eyes. "I am better than all right, child. I have waited my whole life for this day." She looked at the aliens mingling in the park, talking and laughing and learning about each other. When I was young, I dreamed of meeting other species. I learned their languages. I studied their cultures. I believed that if we could just understand each other, we could be friends. She shook her head. Then came the walkout. I thought my dream was dead. I thought we would be enemies forever. She took Shinjisu's hand, but you did not give up. None of you did. You kept trying. You kept reaching out. You kept believing that friendship was possible. She squeezed the young ambassador's hand, and you were right.
Ow.
Shinjisu sat down beside her. It was not just us. It was everyone. The Rilvans who trusted us, the stone singers who stood by us, the neutral species who refused to join the conspiracy, and the fallen powers who finally understood their mistake. She looked across the park. A young Keth was talking to a group of human children. They were laughing at something he had said. He looked happy. He looked like he belonged. Even the Keith are joining us, Shin Gisu said. Not all of them. Not yet, but some. The young ones who want something different. The ones who are tired of the old ways. Lee Hanna nodded. Scholar Veth. I have read his work. He writes beautifully about the need for cooperation. He says the Keth lost their way millions of years ago, and humans showed them the path back. He gives us too much credit.
Apps.
Lee Hanna smiled. Or perhaps he sees something we cannot see in ourselves. That evening, there was a celebration. Music from 100 worlds played together. Food from 1,000 cultures was shared. Species that had never met before danced together under the stars. Admiral Beekwu stood at the edge of the party watching. He had traded his uniform for civilian clothes. He looked uncomfortable. Ambassador Shin Gisu found him there. Not enjoying the party, Admiral? Beekwu shrugged. I am a soldier. Parties are not my battlefield. Shin Gisu laughed. There will still be work for soldiers. The galaxy is not perfect. There are still pirates and criminals and species who refuse to join us. We will need protection, I know. Beekwu was quiet for a moment. I spent 5 years preparing for war, building ships, training crews, planning battles that never came. He looked at the aliens celebrating with humans. I am glad they never came. Shin Gisu nodded. So am I. Ambassador Park was right, Beekwu said. Walking away was more powerful than fighting. We did not have to destroy our enemies. We just had to let them destroy themselves. They were not our enemies, Shinjisu said quietly. They were frightened. They saw us growing and spreading and changing. and they were afraid of what we would become. So they tried to control us before we could threaten them. Shingisu smiled. Now they see what we became. Not conquerors. Not masters. Just friends. Far away from Seoul, in a quiet garden in Busan. Park Soo sat with her grandchildren. They were young, only 5 and 7 years old. They had never known a galaxy without the open compact. They had never known a time when humans were alone among the stars. Grandmother, the older one asked, "Is it true you made the aliens go away?" Park Soo laughed. "No, child. I did not make them go away. I simply reminded them that we could leave, and that they would miss us when we were gone." Why would they miss us? Park Soo looked up at the night sky. Ships from the compact crossed overhead, their lights twinkling like new stars. Because humans have a gift, little one. We know how to make friends. We know how to help without asking for payment. We know how to listen when others speak. We know how to find the good in anyone, even those who have hurt us. She pulled her grandchildren close. The universe is vast and dark and full of strange things. It is easy to be afraid. It is easy to fight. It is easy to try to control others because you fear what they might do to you. She kissed the top of each small head. But humans learned a long time ago that there is a better way. If you help others, they will help you. If you trust others, they will trust you. If you treat others with kindness, they will remember your kindness. The younger child yawned. That sounds easy, grandmother. Park Soo smiled. It is easy to understand. It is harder to practice. But humans have practiced it for thousands of years. And now, finally, the galaxy is learning too. She looked up at the ships crossing the sky. Ships from Earth and Rilva and Keleth and 100 other worlds. Ships carrying traders and scientists and diplomats and tourists. Ships carrying hope. The galaxy tried to make us kneel, she whispered. They learned that humans do not kneel. But we do something else. Her grandchildren were asleep now, warm against her sides. We reach out our hands, and we help others stand. Above her, the stars shone bright. Somewhere out there, species that had been enemies were becoming friends. Somewhere out there, the wounds of the past were healing. Somewhere out there, a new civilization was being born. A civilization built not on fear, but on trust. Not on power, but on kindness. Not on control, but on cooperation. A civilization where humanity was not the master, but the friend, and that Park Soo knew was the greatest. Victory of all. The old woman closed her eyes and smiled. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humans had finally found their place among the stars, not above thee. Others not below them, but beside them, where they had always belonged.